Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Top Hat Gaming Man and this is Top Hat Chat, and this is my fellow co-host Luke Street. Yeah, what did you think of that introduction?
It was fine.
It was fine?
Yeah,
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Passable.
I was happy with that.
Yeah, okay.
You do have an internal charisma that shines through.
Thank you, yes, I certainly do. So ladies and gentlemen, today I believe we're going to be talking about Megaman and its impact on the continent of Europa. Not to be confused with one of the moons of... what's Europa a moon of? Is it Saturn? Jupiter?
You're the teacher.
Apparently. Europa. Yeah, it's definitely a moon. I can't remember which planet, but that's irrelevant anyway. We're talking about Megaman, not bloody space exploration.
Well,
so,
if I hadn't met you, I would be asking you what Megaman is. Because you were my first experience of Megaman.
Yes, you are right to some degree, but you would know by now. Come on. He's basically, me and Luke, we've known each other for about 11 years now.
Yeah.
So back then, there wasn't such a ridiculously huge YouTube echo chamber in place, which basically promotes the same games over and over and over again. They've basically built up this wealth of hyperbole around them. So now, today, everyone in Europe has heard of Megaman. However, there was certainly a time where the franchise could be considered niche somewhat in this part of the world. I hadn't heard of Megaman until the release of Megaman X. And the only reason I received a copy whatsoever, which is here, was quite frankly because I have quite a clever mother. I was a very spoiled little brat, you see, when I was a child. Every single payday, my mother would buy me a new Super Nintendo game.
It doesn't really surprise me. You come across as that kind of person.
Well, let's be honest, you're a very spoiled little brat too. I know your mother. She buys you bloody everything, even now. So.
Yeah, no, she's very kind. I'm very, very lucky.
Yes.
Which is nice. Really.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have good mothers. We can agree on that one,
yeah.
I suppose. But yes, Megaman X. The reason she bought me Megaman X was from a shop chain which existed in the UK at the time, which I believe to have been Electronic Boutique.
Yeah.
Which today, which I believe eventually got bought out by Game Station, which got bought out by Game, which is our main supply chain of games today. But you know what's an amusing factoid though?
Come.
I've been to Australia and Canada, and for some reason Electronic Boutique is still their main game chain.
That's quite impressive.
How strange is that though?
Yeah.
You thought that brand was dead, but that brand's still alive in other parts of the world.
I have a lot of fond memories of Electronics Boutique. It was one of the only places really where you could regularly get a lot of older games. And I remember buying my copy of Spawn for the SNES there, and I know you quite want that one.
I do really want that.
It's quite hard to find over here.
I will say I was slightly let down by Electronics Boutique in Canada and Australia though, because if you go to Electronics Boutique, you expect to buy Super Nintendo and Mega Drive games. What's this PlayStation 4 and Xbox One nonsense? That's not what Electronic Boutique's about, is it?
It never
That's
was.
for game and like GameStop in the US and crap like that. Electronic Boutique's meant to be able to have a Super Nintendo and Mega Drive.
And now over here, the only place where you can get stuff like that is CX. Drastically overinflated prices.
They are drastically inflated, but luckily I seem to be the only person in this area who would actually buy retro games to play rather than just simply sell on. So anything that goes into the one in Clacton I can just leave sitting on the shelf for like 6 months and eventually it will get into my hands. So that's always nice.
Yeah.
But yes, Megaman X. As a child, I remember telling literally everybody to play this game when I was at school. No one had heard of it. No one knew anything about Mega Man. It kind of felt like my game because I didn't know anyone who owned it, as I said. And when I met Luke, I'm sure I must have introduced him to this game at some point because it is fantastic. In fact, I love this game so much that a few years later, I even asked my mother for Christmas for a copy of Mega Man X2. As well, which I believe to be worth quite a large sum of money now because of its obscureness. Because if you're not going to have played Mega Man X, you're not going to get Mega Man X2, are you? No. So by that point, the franchise was getting more and more obscure in Europe.
Over in my eye line over here, I can see your prized possession.
Yes, I own a PAL European copy of Mega Man X3, which was a game I looked to acquire for around 20 years.
Yeah.
I wanted it on release, but I kind of got sidetracked by the Nintendo 64's release, which would have been around the same time.
Yeah.
But,
it was quite late in the life cycle.
But to be fair, I don't ever recall seeing it for sale at retail anywhere, and I actually had to import this copy from Germany. So, yes.
Yeah. I've played that game and it is awesome. It runs in the Mega Man X series. It plays similarly.
I really like it.
It's awesome. It's an awesome game.
I like it. But yes, it's worth about £1,000, I believe, because it was made in such limited supply. But obviously by the time this came out, no one cared about Mega Man in Europe. No one. No. So that's the main point. Like, Mega Man has always been obscure in Europe up until very recently. After the days of the YouTuber echo chamber. But why do you feel that is? Why has Mega Man never been able to make the same ground that is made in Japan and North America? It hasn't been able to do that in Europe.
Could it have been poor marketing?
Well, that's what you would have to assume, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the product is clearly there.
Yeah, the quality of the game is incredible. It's up there with the Mario series, which again everybody liked. Everybody loved it, and it's a great game, and it follows a very similar thing. So you have that familiarity when you go back and play the next one and the next one. You know, there's no reason not to like the Mega Man game.
You could argue that the art style is maybe a bit less familiar to a European audience than a Japanese audience, because it's kind of done in an anime art style. And obviously this was before the days of Pokemon, etc., hitting the mainstream. However, in America, I believe they had even more of a problem with anime-related stuff. But Mega Man was huge there. But then again, I suppose they had the early footing, didn't they? For some reason, the NES was super popular in the United States. So obviously, they wanted as many NES games as possible. So Mega Man got its footing in a time where Nintendo had no competition in that specific region.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, really, because if the SNES wasn't particularly popular in Europe, why would they release games for it over here? They released some of them, and not all of them, especially not in the quantities that would have been needed to get.
Most of the Mega Man NES games were released in Europe, but you got to think most Europeans didn't have NESs in the first place. Yeah. So if you haven't got the console, you're even less likely to own a Mega Man game, I suppose. So yes, Mega Man X was probably popular in the United States off the back of Mega Man on the NES, which it never had the opportunity in Europe. So without the early, I suppose you call it scaffolding in place. Groundwork, yes. Mega Man has never had the opportunity to be put in the same stratosphere as in North America and Japan in Europe, I suppose. I think that's a good point.
It makes sense.
That's how I probably feel. Interestingly though, like I said, despite all of this YouTube echo chamber coming over from the United States, constantly hyping Mega Man, Capcom still do not seem to have pulled the trigger in Europe still. Yeah, they still do not release the same amount of Mega Man games here what they would in those other regions.
Which is a real shame.
Yes,
because the quality of the games is still as good now as it was then.
Like when I went around the world last year, I travelled all over the United States and picked up all sorts of games, and some of those was the Mega Man collection and the Mega Man X collection, both on the PlayStation 2. Yeah. They were basically compilations with all the Mega Man games on. Never received a release in Europe on that platform, or on the GameCube either, or the original Xbox. We just didn't get a Mega Man collection, which again is a shame. Yeah. And even moving forward, even to this was around 2015 sort of time, they released, wait here, talk to the camera on your road a second. I'm going to grab something.
I will just have a little look at what you're doing, I think.
Where have I bloody put it?
What have you lost?
Yeah, it's bloody stuck.
He actually knows where it is, which is surprising.
That is, isn't it? You can't say I don't love my games to not know where every single one of them is. But I'm always one of those weirdo collectors who collect games just to have as many as possible. I wouldn't have a clue or anything because I know where exactly every game is.
So come on, what have you surprised me with? Come on.
It's still sealed.
Still sealed.
Mega Man Legacy Collection, which I purchased in the United States, and I suppose the reason I've not got around to opening it yet is because I own all the Mega Man games on the NES already. But yes, I would like to play it on the PlayStation 4 at some point, because it could be fun to have a trophy run, couldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be nice to have maybe a little stream of this at some point. Bearing in mind that's something I want to try.
Then again, it's an NES game. Surely every twat under the sun already streams NES games. It's one of those, ooh, I'm a YouTuber and I'm American, so I've got to play the NES consoles, isn't it?
You get a few, but you do get some very, very talented people playing this.
Exactly, so there's no point me playing it then, is there?
Well, it's nice to see people fight.
But yeah, all I'm saying is, Mega Man Legacy Collection. This game got released on the Nintendo 3DS, the PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One. And it's also received a sequel, Mega Man Legacy Collection 2, on those same systems as well. Not the 3DS actually, but the PS4 and the Xbox One. All of those titles have only been, none of them have been released in Europe. Only they've come out in North America, but not Europe. So we're still being shafted to this day for Mega Man related content.
We've had the revelation of a new Mega Man game.
Mega Man 11, yes.
Mega Man 11. Is that going to come out in Europe?
I personally don't feel it will. Actually, tell a lie, this game was released in Europe, but only as downloadable content. Does that count? No. Downloadable content?
Downloadable content is awful. It's a bugbear for me. I hate downloadable content. I like to physically own something.
Me too, yes.
And I don't. That's not even a collector in me. I'm not a particular collector.
Thing is, you're an idiot. If you only want to download games, you're inhuman. You need to own the physical object because you need to have a concrete experience.
Yeah.
It's a basic human need.
Yeah.
It's a human need to have a concrete experience. To own something, you should be able to physically touch it.
Yeah. I mean, there's not even the incentive of it's cheaper, because a lot of the time, on the Xbox One, I know specifically, you can go and buy a game for £10, £15 more as a digital download than you can get it if you go into a store. Why would you pay more for something you don't own?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
One of the reasons I've never been into it.
But coming back to Mega Man, I think that Mega Man 11 has to come out in Europe and be a big release.
Whilst I think it should be released, despite the fact that I was moaning about it in another video about there being too many Mega Man games, I think it should be released because if it's coming out, why not? But at the same point, I feel that Capcom may decide to make it a digital-only game in Europe, simply for the fact that that seems to be the route they've been going with Mega Man games here for quite some time now.
I think that they're going to have to release something for the Switch, because we've spoken about this before, about Nintendo Direct, and the amount of recycled, rehashed games is ridiculous. They need something new. They do. They need something new.
The more content, obviously, on the Switch, the better, because I do feel, again, there isn't that much new exclusive content on the system. A lot of it is old rehashed games, so it would be nice for a new release. But whether what's right and what's not right, it's not really about that. We're about, will Capcom actually pull the trigger and release Mega Man 11 in Europe? Bearing in mind they kind of ignore the European market with Mega Man.
I think they're going to have to. I don't think they have a choice, literally, because of how little content there is for the Switch. I literally think they're going to have to release it as something you can go and buy. I don't think they have a choice. I really don't.
We'll see. But there's other cool games out there, I suppose. Somewhat of a rehash again, like in Japan, they've got Secret of Mana, a physical version of that over there. They've got it on a trilogy compilation disc, a bit like this collection.
Right.
And over there it's called Seiken Densetsu instead. Yeah. So they've got Seiken Densetsu 1, 2 and 3 all on one cartridge. Never released it anywhere other than Japan. So there are big titles out there which are exclusive to regions still, which is why I believe Mega Man 11 could be no different. And also, isn't it strange really that Street Fighter was the must-have game that basically established Nintendo in Europe? That was the game, that was the reason people went out there and purchased Super Nintendos in the first place. Yeah. So it's strange that Capcom were the company who essentially made Nintendo in Europe. That one of their biggest franchises, Mega Man, they have never managed to find a way to make it popular.
You'd think they would have just kept on throwing it out, considering how big the company were.
Exactly.
They would have just thrown all of their stuff out there and hoped something stuck.
Yes, but somehow Mega Man, thus far, it's still never got the same level of hype as it has elsewhere, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing. I remember when I was a child actually thinking, this is so amazing. You could do everything with this. You could have merchandise. Yeah. You could have a television cartoon series. Little did I know, all of this stuff was happening in other regions.
You were just missing out.
Yeah, I was just missing out.
Out of curiosity, have you gone back and watched the cartoon series?
Oh yes, it's not worth watching, obviously. Yes. But that's the thing. I played Mega Man X as a child, and I was British, and I was absolutely hooked on it. I thought it was amazing. So if it was marketed right, that's enough proof, surely, that it could have been big if they had done it right. Yeah.
It was a very difficult game, I found. Even playing it now.
Everything was difficult back then, though. So let's be fair to it. And it's not that difficult.
Well, compared to Mario, I think it's the difficulty curve goes up a little bit. I think.
Which Mario game though? Like let's say
similar era.
Mario and the Lost Levels or Mega Man X. I think Mario and the Lost Levels is probably more difficult.
That's quite hard. Although I did complete that. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have or not. Not quite sure.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. But again, I went back and played it a little bit later.
I've actually completed Mega Man X 1 through 6.
That's impressive.
It is, yes. Mega Man X6 is the hardest. That game is a bloody little bit of a bugger, yes.
You have to get me on that or something.
Haven't completed all the original Mega Man games yet because They're just very samey, I must say, more so than the X games, probably because 6 of them rule on the NES, so
Yeah.
whereas the Mega Man X series has got more diversity, because some are on the Super Nintendo and some are on the PlayStation and the Saturn, so you've got a little bit more hardware to play with. Saying that, only the first 6 original Mega Man games are on the Nintendo, then you've got one on the Super Nintendo and one on the PlayStation, but they feel like completely different franchise really. They feel closer to the X series than they do Mega Man. So yes, Mega Man in Europe, will it ever truly happen? Let us know in the comment section why you think Mega Man has never been able to get a true footing in Europe. Yeah. Also, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe on this new channel, Top Hat Chat. And if by chance you have stumbled across this video on your adventures exploring the information superhighway, then just to let you know, I have another YouTube channel where I have close to 18,000 subscribers, Top Hat Gaming Man. So be sure to look that one up as well. Yeah. Cheerio!